No, we're not going to Degrassi for those of you who have been watching the last 20 minutes of blather. We're proud to be part of the VOC Nation Radio Network. If you can't get enough of the Stadium Journey podcast after the show, head over to our website, stadiumjourney.com, the mothership, where you'll find over 2,500 stadium reviews, news items, and much, much more. And we're also on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Like and follow us everywhere. After you are thoroughly entertained by our podcast tonight, you might feel an urge to check out our old episodes. It's easy to do. Just type VOC Nation Radio Network into whatever podcast search app you use, or go to the Stadium Journey website, look under the podcast tab on the main menu. All of our old video podcasts are there, and they're also on our Stadium Journey YouTube channel. And some of you already know this because you're there watching live, but we stream live on twitch.tv/danlaw83. And everybody who's watching us right now, don't be afraid to participate in the show. We also have a new Patreon page full of perks for our sponsors. Check out the list of rewards available. And if you give us enough money, we might even have you on the podcast. So let me take a minute before we get started and introduce our lineup. We've got Dave Cotney with us, as always. Follow him at ProFan9. Mark Viquez is here. You can find him at Ballpark Hunter. Our producer, the above-average comedian, Dan Calachico, is online at DanLaw83. And my name is Paul Baker. You can follow me at PuckmanRI. And hey, a quick thanks to everyone who made our last episode with Nick Morocco from the Boston Cannons our highest rated episode ever. Woohoo! We have doubled our advertising rates because of that.
No, we haven't. When?
00, still 0, right?
All right. Well, fair enough.
Oh, yeah. We're still waiting for that big sponsor.
Yeah.
Like Joe Rogan money.
I just want a big Viagra sponsor one day. I just think Viagra's funny.
Not if you really need it, I guess.
But it's funny even if you need it. So what do? It just won't go away.
What was that movie? Oh, The Ladies' Man. If an erection lasts longer than 4 hours, call more ladies.
Boy.
So on to tonight's show.
Oh boy.
We are always thinking of topics for our podcast. So during one of our staff meetings, I came up with this really bright idea. At least I thought so. Let's pick a place we're all familiar with, and let's just analyze the hell out of it. You know, I was thinking of somewhere big like Camden Yards, PNC Park, Notre Dame Stadium. Instead, Dave says, hey, let's do McCoy Stadium. So here we are. We're going to talk about McCoy Stadium tonight. I think Dave just wanted to see me cry.
You got your Kleenex ready?
It's over there.
See me
I have my Paw Sox hat, my Paw Sox jersey, complete with Ben Mondo Memorial button.
Nice.
Got my Paw Sox drink cup. So, yeah, we're ready.
I got my Paw Sox hat, even though you don't want to admit that it's really
horrible.
a Paw Sox hat.
Horrible logo. As I said, here was just a plain P on my hat.
Is that why you were no longer with the Paw Sox? You were responsible for said logo?
Yeah, I was the marketing guru who came up with that. No, they changed that long after I was gone. They actually had a few logos. They started with this is like the Boston Red Sox style P. They started with just like a plain one. Then they went to this. Then they introduced Paws when they redid the stadium in 2000, and he was kind of hugging the P. And then they moved to that powder blue monstrosity.
Kind of hugging the P, huh?
Yeah, it felt like every team in all the sports had a polar bear of some sort as a logo. It was like a phenomenon for a while.
Yeah, with
Paws,
like
the Indianapolis Ice had one. Why?
The Leafs have one. Carlton the Bear.
Oh, exactly.
Sports teams that have a polar bear logo at one point.
The Solar Bears or something.
The Orlando Solar Bears.
Yeah, with Paws. They did Paws for Pawtucket.
That's kind of cool.
They could
Chesapeake had one.
Oh.
It always comes back to Chesapeake with Kelly.
Adirondack what? The Frostbite. Adirondack Frostbite.
Oh, boy.
Kelly's riding co-pilot.
The good news is, and I got this from an inside source, Paws and Sox are making their way up to Worcester. Because the new ballpark is going to be called Polar Park. So
yep.
Wait, so it's not going to be called the Woo Sox? I'm confused.
No, Woo Sox is the Worcester Red Sox is the name of the team. The Woo Sox for short, just like they did the Paw Sox from the Pawtucket Red Sox.
I want to say some roller hockey team had a polar bear as a logo, but
So I guess we settled on McCoy Stadium because Dave, you just finished reading you said one of the best books you've ever read.
Yeah, it was pretty amazing. I remember I sent you a text right away, like once I got about 30 pages in, and said, "Hey, wait a second, you didn't tell me this was poetry." Just the way that Dan Barry writes it, it just flows. If you think about how terrible the whole experience was, and you boil the book down to really what it is, it's at its most base level, it's really just a where are they now? There's a ton of but he just puts it in such a way that it's magical. It's got that Field of Dreams flavor to it, right? And when I posted that, he said, "Thanks for reading." So.
Nice. So I am going to try really hard to not monopolize this conversation because for those of you who don't know me and my background, I grew up in Rhode Island. So the Paw Sox were the closest professional team to me. I've probably been there over the course of my lifetime, and this is not an exaggeration, probably been there about 1,000 times. I worked for the team for 12 years. It's been a big part of my life.
That's 600 games right there.
That was 840.
You're not counting though.
No. Well, no, 72 times 12. So it's 40. So I know McCoy Stadium backwards, forwards, inside and out. So I can give a pretty cool perspective on it. I think, Dave, you've been there at least once.
I've been there once, yep.
And Mark, I know you've been there a couple times. You did a fantastic video of McCoy Stadium. You only been there once?
I've only been there once. I think I drove by it sometime in 1991, if I remember, in the off season. But yeah, it's just one time. Stephen Key and I, another writer with the website, went there. He's actually been there twice, so he's got one up on me on that one.
So I guess a couple of reasons why we're focusing on McCoy Stadium. A trial run to maybe do this for other places. Dave just read bottom of the 33rd, so McCoy is fresh on his mind. The Paw Sox, as you all probably know, after being in Pawtucket, and it's spelled Pawtucket, but it said Pawtucket. So after 50 years in Rhode Island, are moving up the road, up Route 146, about 40 miles to the city of Worcester, Massachusetts. And the new Polar Park, which the taxpayers of Massachusetts are on the hook for a grand total of $130 million.
Ooh.
It will be the most expensive. It will be the most expensive facility ever built for a minor league team.
But just to backtrack for a second, Woo Bangers are apparently joints with cocaine in them.
Oh. I did not know that. A Woo Banger.
I don't think we can call them that.
Do they originate in Worcester? I would not be surprised.
I got you all in check.
I don't know, Paul, but sorry, I was dealing with major technological issues in the background, so I didn't read that fast enough. So I didn't mean to. I apologize. I think they're fixed, so continue.
All right, so let's talk about McCoy Stadium. It was it started construction in 1937, part of the WPA. So you're talking about an old place when you're talking about the Works Progress Administration. Mm-hmm. Built, give the citizens of Pawtucket some jobs, and it took a good 3 or 4 years to build. I don't know if you remember this from the book. Mark, have you ever read the book we're talking about, Bottom of the 33rd?
No, I've seen the book because when I went to McCoy, I mean, that was all over the place.
That's true.
33-inning game in the book. So I probably picked it up and skimmed through it, but no, I have not read it.
There's one part where they do, Dan Barry does get into the building of the stadium. Mm-hmm. And what was pretty funny about it is...
So I would like that.
The part where the place where they decided was a pond. It was called Hammond Pond. And so they, dried it up, but it was more of a swamp than a pond per se. So they kind of drained the swamp and tried to put pilings down. to support the stadium. But what happened is the ground was so soft that it just kind of, everything they put in the ground sunk. So they drove in a batch of pilings to be the structure of the facility, and they all sank. They put in another set of pilings. Those sank. They put in a third one. The third one's finally held. I think they were standing on top of the first two. So
They said in the book, he said that it was like Dan Barry refers to it as a swamp quite often, and he said it was so bad that they brought a truck out, and then I think they left it there kind of overnight, came back and it was gone, and they're positive that it sunk.
Yeah, it didn't get stolen; it sunk.
How true that is, I'm not really sure. In fact, they said one guy actually got injured sliding into second, and he tore up his. I guess they were really cheap back then, right?
Oh, we'll talk about what it was like for a long time.
He tore up his pants because they got caught on a hubcap, which they think was from one of the vehicles that sunk in this pond, in this swamp or whatever, when they were building the place.
Yeah, you had a total price tag of this ballpark to build it. The original plans, it was going to be a 15,000 seat venue. It cut it back to about 5,000 when they finished building it. It cost, and this is back in 1940, it cost $1.5 million for a minor league ballpark in 1940. I don't know what that would be today.
That's got to be
quite
like
a bit for that
Olympic
time.
Stadium kind of money.
Yeah. And about as useful as Olympic Stadium too. But that's why at McCoy, the bullpen, the dugouts are not dug into the ground. They're at ground level because you couldn't dig down because it would be like bubbling crude or bubbling water coming up. So yeah, that was the building of McCoy Stadium, and they did have a minor league team for a little while back in the 40s, the Pawtucket Slaters. I don't know what class they were in back then, but they played for a few years, and then they went away, and nobody moved in. It was really just pretty empty. It was used for local stuff through the 50s and 60s. Yeah, Dave.
I don't remember if this was actually brought up or not, but why was that spot chosen for the ballpark? Like, what is it about that location?
That was the location that the mayor chose. Mayor
McCoy, right?
Mayor Thomas McCoy. Yeah.
Hence the name.
And it's Rhode Island, so if you know anything about Rhode Island politics, they ain't honest. Never have.
What?
There were probably some other reasons why that spot was chosen.
Cheap land.
Yeah, it was a swamp. It wasn't even land, I think, when they started. The team, for those of you wondering why they would name a team the Slaters, the Industrial Revolution started in Pawtucket. The first water-powered mill was built right a couple miles away from the McCoy Stadium at Slater Mills on the Blackstone River. So the Industrial Revolution started in Pawtucket, and that was the last good thing that happened there, I guess.
And so even back then, they were picking names that represented the region. So that's not a new phenomenon. Okay,
and that's kind of a theme that runs through. Like Dan Barry really, he really gives you a sense of kind of Charleston, like the Charleston Chiefs in Slapshot. Like Pawtucket is that kind of town, talking about the Red Sox and the problems that they had and people didn't have enough money, and it was a really poor kind of place, and the mills were closing, and it really gave you outside of all the hilarity and goofiness of Slapshot, it just gave you a sense of that town, that Charleston Chiefs kind of town.
Well, and that's really the kind of city Pawtucket is. It's the next town over from Providence. It's only about 5 miles away from Providence, and actually shareable from downtown Providence. But in terms of business and opportunity and stuff, it couldn't be further away. For a long time, the only real companies holding up the city were Hasbro Toys and the Paw Sox. And guess what? They're both gone. So it's one of those places where locals call it the bucket. So it's really not known as a place you would go. And the area around the ballpark, to this day, I mean, all these years later, it's still like that. There's not, all the rage is to have the live, work, play area, or the restaurants or the attractions surrounding the ballpark. And this was really what kind of doomed the team with the Paw Sox is there's nothing there. I mean, there's a Chinese restaurant across the street, the Mi King. I'll tell you, it's been there since I was a kid. I've never eaten there. I don't know if it's good, bad, or what. I've been to McCoy all those times. I've never eaten there. There's a little bar next there that used to be a bookie place. Never been inside there. So, yeah, you don't stay in Pawtucket after the game. You head elsewhere. You head home or Providence.
Yeah, what I remember when I went there with Steven, we went to an afternoon game where the camp kids were at, which I hate, but this actually was much not better than I expected. When we pulled up, we saw like little kids outside of their homes selling lemonade for $1, and people saying, "Hey, park here, park in front of my home, or park in this lot." So it was a little different experience than what was Hartford the night before, which was in a city and you had a big open lot, or even in Nashua, where was once again, an older ballpark. So, Pawtucket was just one of those. It just felt like the old-fashioned, quintessential piece of Americana, but very big. It's a huge stadium.
You must have gone after the renovations.
Well, I'm thinking, how many? About 10,000, 8,000?
Yes, 10,021, I believe, was the official capacity.
Yeah. Well, I mean, AAA standards, it's big, but I'm just thinking to myself, like, wow, they built this. Was it always that size, like when they first built it, or was it much smaller?
It was much smaller. I'll get into that. I'll let Dave make his point.
Okay.
Well, I was just going to say to continue and give you a sense of what the town was like. And bottom of the 33rd was 1981.
Yes.
Is that right?
That was when the legendary longest game took place.
So at that time, and at that time they also had Ben Mondor as the owner, who was the savior, and I'm sure you're going to talk at length about him. One of the most humorous parts is when he talks about these kids who worked for the Paw Sox, and like the stadium was so bad they didn't even have laundry facilities.
Right.
And these kids would take these laundry baskets full of the uniforms from the players, hop on their bikes, and bike 4 blocks to the nearest laundromat and do the team's laundry at a laundromat.
Yep. Oh yeah, the ballpark back then didn't have a lot of amenities. It was really run on a shoestring. Now, what was the name of the guy who originally bought the team? Do you remember that, Dave? I can't recall his name off the top of my head.
I can't remember his name, but he was a really like he was like a carnival guy almost. Right?
Yeah.
Like some of the kooky promotions that he ran.
Like, Boozos or something like that? Boozkos?
Yeah, I'll look it up and see if I can find it. But he would run like win a jalopy night. He'd bring in this piece of crap car, sell raffle tickets for it, and then somebody would win. He'd be still stuck with this broken car because some 10-year-old kid would win. His mom would be like, "You're not taking that car,"
or it wouldn't run.
You're not paying for a tow truck to get that car out of there.
Yeah, when the team was bought, I think it was the Louisville franchise, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes,
I could be very wrong with that. And they moved it to Rhode Island in the AA Eastern League for the first couple of years. Some decent players came through there. This was the early to mid 70s, so you had Carlton Fisk played in Pawtucket, guys like Cecil Cooper, Ben Ogilvy. There was some.
Fredlin?
No, he was a little later. He was for AAA.
Oh, okay, that's right.
But the stadium itself, it was in this bad neighborhood. It's on one side it's residential, and on the other side it's industrial. So there's, like we were saying, there's nothing there to draw you to the area. Pawtucket was back then in the 70s very crime-ridden. It was not known as a place you would go and stay. They struggled to gain fans. I think their average attendance was around 1,000 a game, if not less. The ballpark, for those of you who only know the nice, new, remodeled McCoy Stadium that they remodeled in the year 2000, you know how you've got the giant seating bowl with the roof over the top of it. The part that is covered by the roof was the entire stadium. So you had sections 1 to 13 or 1 to 12, and that was it.
It's still better than Peanut Stadium.
Oh yeah, that's the worst. Yeah,
the owner, I think, was Marvin Adelson. Does that sound right?
Sound right. That doesn't sound right at all.
He lost. They were the New England Red Sox, and
no, they were not.
The team was revoked. Maybe that's just
the New England Red Sox.
They came from Louisville. I'm almost positive that. And Mark confirmed.
Yeah, they're the Colonels.
If Mark confirmed it, then yeah.
Yeah, because they were without AAA until the Redbirds came in, right. And I think Carlton Fisk played on that team as well.
Oh, okay, maybe it's this guy. Where's it?
Guess the owner.
Can you guess the owner?
Yeah, the ballpark was just nothing to write home about. And then in the mid-'70s, the team was going to move because I think actually the International League was going to take the team away from this guy who shall remain nameless because we can't find it. Yeah, they were going to take the team and they were going to move it to I don't know where they were planning to move it at that point. But,
Joe Bouzis.
Bouzis, I was close.
Joe Bouzis, yeah.
Where are they going to move it? Anywhere but Pawtucket.
I think back then it was Springfield.
Oh.
Springfield.
Massachusetts? Springfield, Mass?
I think so.
Where the F are you putting that in Springfield?
Well, you would have built this.
McKenzie Stadium in Holyoke, probably.
You see, back then they would just build a couple grandstands and a press box, and boom, there's your ballpark.
If you've ever been to New Britain and seen Beehive Field, that's what Britain were like back then.
What stadium did you mention, Paul? They would put it where?
McKenzie Park.
Where's that?
In Holyoke.
I was going to say I've been to Holyoke many times. I know where that is.
Very nice. Glens Falls, New York.
No, it's not very nice at all.
Of a makeshift stadium for a minor league team.
Mark, let me correct you. No, it's not. Not very nice. Yeah,
if you ever look at the ballparks built around there, like Thurman Munson Stadium in Canton.
Yep.
Or what was the one?
The original Harrisburg ballpark was an erector set. The one Albany Heritage Park.
Erector set.
Heritage Field in Albany Colony, and then of course Potomac. That was terrible. Madison, Wisconsin. Oh yeah, the whole bunch of them. Rockford, Illinois. Just a bunch of bleachers. Beloit's still sitting on one of their. They've lasted this long with their stadium, and they didn't build a new ballpark. They would have been out of the Midwest League, replaced with somebody else. I don't know who, but whew.
So
yeah, different era back then.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, you look at the places built now, and you look at that.
So, I got the lineage here. So Joe Bouzis, he was the kind of crazy guy. He had all the weird stuff going on, and there was this guy Marvin Adelson in between.
I don't remember
him. He had the team for 2 months, and he renamed them the New England Red Sox. They were going to move to Worcester, but basically he had like a John Spano deal where he had control of the team but never gave any money, so the league took them back.
How does somebody do that? Like I've watched that 30 for 30 about Spanos 10 times. I'm like, nobody thought, let's check this guy. Like,
I mean, I could see it back then. It was a different day back then. Yeah.
But even what years were these, Mark?
We're looking at the 70s, Dan.
Late 70s.
All right, maybe. I'll give you the 70s. But when you get to the mid 90s, you're like, no, here.
But I
77?
also
I thought it was earlier
just
than that.
finished Bruce McNall's autobiography. Same thing. If a bank thinks you have money, they're going to give you more money.
No
And that's
comment.
basically what happened to Bruce McNall. Like, he got loans based on rare coins that didn't exist, that he didn't own. And they just kept giving him more money.
Here,
and
take
then
more.
I
like
got this thing here. It's
from a
awesome.
bank
Blow your mind.
perspective, it gets to be kind of a slippery slope, right? Like, if we cut this guy off, then, you know, are we going to get anything back? Maybe if we give him some more money, we'll get some money back. So
Sounds like somebody else's finances we've all heard of.
No, but
but
yeah, so
that's
after
how
that
those
guy,
work.
Ben Mondor steps in. Yeah, he was a guy from Woonsocket, which is a town actually halfway in between Providence and Worcester. Well, it's a city, little city, another industrial city. A French guy, a French Canadian guy, and he bought the team. And you know, eventually he became the savior of Rhode Island baseball, because without him and without all the money he sank into that money pit of McCoy Stadium, they were gone.
wow.
And I guess you can't talk about the Pawtucket Red Sox without talking about the holy trinity of the team. That's their management team that was there really from day one. You had Ben Mondor, who owned the team, and then you had his two lieutenants who were right there from day one. You had Mike Tamboro, who was a Worcester guy who came in and he acted as the president general manager, and you had Lou Schweckheimer, who sadly just passed away about a month or so ago. And he came in as a kid right out of college, right out of the UMass Management School, and the three of them ran everything from soup to nuts back in the day. They did it all, and their efforts saved the team.
And that's kind of the businessman that Mondor was, is he wanted that longevity, right? Like, there's a part in the book where it says that he offered John McNamara. No, John. What was the
McNamara?
manager's name?
Joe Morgan.
Joe Morgan. Not the Reds Joe Morgan, the other Joe Morgan.
Walpole Joe.
Kennedy's
Yeah.
McNamara?
So he offered Joe Morgan a lifetime contract, which, you know, he really wanted. There was like a really close connection there, but Joe Morgan said, you know, no, I'm like these guys. I want to make it to the majors one day. And
And he did.
Yep.
Morgan's magic in the late '80s, the '88 Red Sox.
What a shot. No, not like these guys.
No, he meant that he was like the players. He wanted to make the big leagues.
Yep.
Sure.
Yeah.
Wow.
But yeah, Ben Mondor's philosophy was make it family friendly and make it affordable. That was everything that team was built on. And as somebody who worked for the team, I worked there from 2000 to 2012, which is a good 20 plus years after what we're talking about. That was still everything we did was make it family friendly, make it affordable. And to this day, the Paw Sox are still the cheapest ticket in the International League. I doubt that's going to follow them to Worcester.
No, those days are over.
But yeah, for
the older
longest,
the ballpark, that you get those cheap tickets. Once the new ballpark opens, bam, double. Maybe not double, but you know what I mean.
Yeah. So the Paw Sox slogged along, and you know they made roads and they became profitable. They weren't the laughingstock they were during the Boozis years. Actually, they did change the name one time, Dave. I don't know what the timeline was you were talking about, but for 1 year, in 1976, they called themselves the Rhode Island Red Sox. They tried, because a lot of people from outside of the area are like,
Oh yeah.
where the hell's Pawtucket? So they
Wanna
tried to
be
call them the
regional.
Rhode Island Red Sox, but it didn't stick.
Yeah. And they were like with anything, like they were horrible at that point, right?
Yeah, that was 76. The reason they ended up being known as the Paw Sox, it was kind of like a desperation move. When they started, when Mondor and Tamboro and Schweckheimer started, they didn't have uniforms. So they got a bunch of leftover uniforms
Yeah.
from the Red Sox. And of course, you know, they said Red Sox on them. So they ended up taking off part of it, and they just started to put Pawtucket. So they had PAW and SOX. So they ended up being the Paw Sox.
I think I read a part two.
Wow.
And maybe
That's
I'm
how
getting
it
a little
became.
confused with all my books, but they had ordered stuff and it just didn't come in on time. And
Maybe that's
I
how
think,
they got those uniforms.
yeah, like they went to Sears and bought caps, like adjustable caps that you could find in Sears or whatever. Boston Red Sox caps, and that's what they started with.
They very well may have.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at old footage and videos of that era, a lot of the teams were named after the parent club, just a different cap. But I always thought they were the Paw Sox because the Red Sox were the Bo Sox, the Chicago White Sox were the Chi Sox, and the Paw Sox sounded
Well, it makes sense.
just the natural.
It sounds right. Yeah.
Yeah, sounds right. But you're saying that's because they took off the red and they put PAW.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Wow.
Although I do
know
have
that.
a game used Paw Sox jersey. It's not this one. I'm wearing the road version.
Yeah.
And it just says, it looks identical to the Boston uniform. But that was from the 2000s when they were well established. But yeah, going back to the stadium, Pawtucket was known, it was this little piece of garbage, dirty, dark, dank place. As a kid going there and having to go urinate in the giant troughs was never fun. But it was known for the entrance ramps. So if you can envision what the ballpark looks like, they have this giant entry tower that they built in 2000. But before that, the way into the stadium were these giant ramps that were on the outside of the seating bowl. And they started putting murals up. They had this local artist come in and paint players who made it from Pawtucket up to Boston. And eventually, those murals that were right on the wall made it all the way up the ramps. And so from the outside, you could see all these paintings of famous alumni. And I think that's really about the time when they really started. But then 1981, baseball's on strike. Was it a strike or a lockout in 81? I think it was a strike.
Strike.
The Rochester Red Wings came to town in a cold April morning. And the Paw Sox were an unknown commodity no more, right?
Yeah, it's it's like that game was just a comedy of errors, right? And if you step back and think about it, and you're like, wait a second, how would they even be allowed to play that late? And
I know.
Everything just sort of had to fall into place.
Here's the line score. How about this?
Before we
How would
continue,
you like to be the guy in the 21st inning, the bottom of the 21st? Who the hell tied that up?
I know who tied that up. That was Wade Boggs, and the interview he does, he hits a double to tie it up. He's on second. He looks, and Wade Boggs is like crazy, right? He was known for knowing his batting average at all times. So he's looking in the dugout like, hey, man, I'm this big hero. I just tied the game. And everybody is so mad at him. It's like, this is the 21st inning. What did you do that for?
So, to set the scene, this game started on a Saturday night, April 18th, 1981. It was supposed to start at 7 or 7:30, but all the outfield lights wouldn't work. So they had a delay while they tried to get all the lights to work. It was probably it's April in Rhode Island. It's probably about 40 degrees at this point.
we're starting in a negative.
It was Easter Saturday.
Yeah. So probably no more than 1,000 people there at the beginning.
I think the starting attendance was like about 1,900.
Wow, that's surprising. Because I worked a lot of April games, and we never had 1,900, let me tell you. And the wind is blowing in hard from center field. I know in the book that you're referencing, Dave, they're talking about the players had the giant 55-gallon metal buckets, and right from the beginning of the game, they're putting broken bats in there and lighting fires and doing anything they can to keep warm.
One of the players was doling out baseballs to local kids through the fence to go and so that they would go and run and find anything that they could burn. And like kids were coming back with pieces of fence and they're whatnot. The guys in the dugout are like, wait a second, is this somebody's fence that these kids
Somebody
are
woke
apart?
up the next morning, their fence is gone.
Hey, I just want to shout out Dennis Michael, Huggy Bear. What's going on? Glad you're feeling better. That's all. Thank you.
All right. Yeah, so that's the situation with the game. It starts late because the lights don't work, It's freezing cold. The wind's blowing like crazy. That the kind of cold April wind that just goes right through you all night. And they're trying to play baseball, and because the wind's so bad, nobody can hit anything. So this 1-0 game, Rochester's up 1-0. They got a run in the top of the 7th, going to the bottom of the 9th. Pawtucket somehow ties it up. Chico Walker hits a double to tie it up. So they go into trudge along into extra innings. So probably about 11 o'clock or so at this point. So no big deal. But then nobody scores.
Yeah.
And nobody scores. And what happened, I think there was a rule, and I may not have this right, but that there was supposed to be no innings that could start after 1 a.m.
Yeah, the rule was supposedly in the International League rules that no inning would start after 12:50.
Right.
And somehow the rule just disappeared out of the rule book.
It was not in the umpire's rule book that he had on him. So they kept playing.
Yeah, the umpire was a real old school hardcore guy, and he was like, nope, it's not the rules. We still play.
And meanwhile, I think like Ben Mondor is frantically trying to get in touch with the International League president, Harold Cooper,
Yep.
who lives in Columbus. And for some reason, he's not answering his phone. No cell phones back then in 1981. So he's trying to call his house, and he was out or something, and he couldn't get through. He's calling all night. And finally, Cooper answers his phone like at 3 o'clock in the morning. It's like, what? What are you guys doing? Still playing? Call the game.
Yeah, the wife, his wife answered at like 1 o'clock or something like that, or 1:30, and he wasn't home. He was somewhere else. And they're like, listen, we're still playing baseball. You gotta get him to call as soon as he gets home.
But why? So why did the umpires just say that's it? It's over.
Because it didn't say the rule. That rule in the rule book was missing.
I don't care.
They're going by the book. It's not in the book.
My book says my wife's going to kill me unless I get home. Good night.
Great story about one of the players, Dan.
Oh,
yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah.
I'm listening. You have
But they could have ended it earlier. Like the weather played such a huge role, because there was one specific incident where a guy just tagged it, like really clubbed it, and everybody thought it was gone, and nope, the wind just blew it right back. What was really interesting that I never would have thought, there was a dude from Rochester who pitched 10 innings.
Oh, if you look at the box score, like it was a 33-inning game. Both teams used 5 pitchers, 6 pitchers. Can you imagine today what would happen? You'd need you need 17 pitchers for 33 innings. But that story, I thought Dave was going to go into it, but I will do it. One of the Pawtucket pitchers, they sent him home, and correct me if I get details of this wrong, Dave.
Yep.
They sent him home at like 2 a.m. or something, because they had another game at 1 o'clock on Easter Sunday. They had to play again. So they're like, we need you tomorrow. Go home, get some rest. So he tried to go home, and it's 2 a.m. or so, maybe even a little later, and his wife wouldn't let him in the apartment. His wife thought he was out carousing and drinking.
Yeah.
And
the wife was
it
was a Latino guy. So the wife says, nope, there's no way you were out playing baseball. Get lost. So he ended up going back to the game.
That is my favorite story. And yeah, the book was awesome, because it tracked down the people who stayed. I mean, if you talk to Rhode Islanders now, there was probably 100,000 people who say they were at that game.
Yeah.
But like Dave said, it was like 1,900 at the beginning, and at the end, was it 20?
19 people.
And that's something I asked all you guys. How long would you stay at a game? Would you stay through
Not that
32
long.
innings in the cold? Would you stay till 3:30 in the morning?
No.
Would your wife pull that Paw Sox player? Would she not let you in the house if you did that?
Well, there was one kid there. I want to say he was one of the umpires' kids, and he got tired.
Yeah.
He got tired, went and slept in the car, turned the lights on,
Or turn the heat on or something. Yeah.
The car was dead. But
Yeah,
yeah,
so-
it just think about like some of these people involved. I mean, he follows this one dad and kid, and they had made a pact. I guess they had left early from a previous game
And
and missed
something
out
incredible
something.
happened. Yeah.
So they made a pact. They're never leaving early again. And this was like the first game where this pact was in place. And I guess the kid, a couple times, can we go home? The dad's like, no, we're never leaving early again.
I guess
But
it
like that-
depends on your locale. Like, if I'm putting this on a major league level and it's Philadelphia, I got places to go after the game's over. If it's a 17-hour game, or if it's an 8-hour game, or if it's a 2-hour game, where the hell am I going after the, like?
Yeah, you're not stepping over to the bar on Easter Sunday morning.
I'm not going to Celebrite's Pizza after the Paw Sox game.
Yeah, I'm
I
just
don't know,
thinking I'm thinking if it's me and I have like 2 hours to drive back home or someplace else,
Could you imagine stumbling into the house at 4 a.m.? Hey, honey, where were you all night? I was at the game.
Oh, we have proof.
Now you can just punch it up on the phone or whatever. But yeah,
Yeah.
back then.
Oh,
But,
Yeah.
but
sleep
like
at the ballpark.
the Bat Boys, like
We're
12-year-old
boys.
kids
They were
or
bat
whatever.
boys. Yeah, they were like
And-
12,
and-
13-year-olds.
And the mom is driving to the park going, what the hell's going on? I want my kid home now.
I
think it
remember
was-
reading.
Tamburo that had to talk mommy down and
Yeah.
he got to work.
Like the umpire's family were calling local hospitals because he didn't
Yeah.
show back up. Oh,
Yeah.
So when the game started, it was April, and finally Cooper calls Pawtucket and says, "Call it," and they stopped the game at like 3:30 in the morning after 32 innings.
Yeah.
So they look at the schedule; they're not playing it the next day. So the next time Rochester is in town is June. So they reschedule it for when Rochester comes back in June. And in the meantime, Major League Baseball goes on strike. So there's no other baseball to pay attention to. And everybody hones in on McCoy Stadium in June.
So you're telling me after all that, they didn't even finish the game?
No, it was 1-1
Not that
after
night.
32 innings.
Oh,
Well, and-
man.
and-
okay.
That's where it really tugs at you because, you got this small town, hard luck stadium and this huge event and they're getting national attention, right? Like everybody's on Good Morning America and there's media there from England and from Japan and everywhere. And they play one more inning.
Yeah, go to
It was
resume
so
the day.
anticlimactic.
McCoy Stadium, which holds about 40, I think it was 4,200 at the time, is bursting. There's temporary bleachers. There's hundreds and hundreds of media from all over the world. There's television networks. The Paw Sox win it. 3 batters into the bottom of the 33rd. The whole thing lasted 18 minutes, I think they said.
Yeah.
So Matt just said you guys have to look up 10-cent beer night.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, that's in Cleveland.
1974. Yep. That's infamous with Disco Demolition as well. But
Oh.
yeah, look that up. There's videos of their, looking back documentary. I don't think there's any game footage, but there are some photos and maybe some.
I think Disco
News.
Demolition Night was a double hitter, if I remember
That
correctly.
was.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it was
they-
in between the 2 games.
They
and they had to
canceled the
forfeit.
second game, and
Yes.
10-cent beer night ended up as a forfeiture because the umpire said enough of this. There's, they like crazy drunk Clevelanders were all running on the field, and
Yeah,
there
they
was
were
like
in article
60,000
somewhere.
people at that game.
Yeah, and there was a backstory to that too. Texas and Cleveland had a little bit of a fight or a brawl the
Yeah,
series
I think you're
before
right.
in Arlington.
Yeah.
So both fascinating stories, but much different than this game played at Pawtucket, which was played by the rules: no forfeit, no 10-cent beer night, no
No,
disco
Bills may have
records
only
being
won
blown up.
Well, and
I think you could get a ticket back then for like $3.
The good old days.
and the ending, like there were guys pitching in that last inning who weren't even on the roster.
Yeah, that's the fun part.
And it was just so, it was so hard luck. Like Pawtucket didn't have a radio crew, and it wasn't on television. There was a radio crew from Rochester, which broadcast the whole game, and it was made up of the general manager and a player who was injured. Like that's who was broadcasting the game. And the general manager for the Red Wings ended up getting fired like a week later.
That was his punishment. They sent him on the road. Go do the radio. You're in trouble.
he was almost done, but he ended up getting fired. Like he ended up he did that last inning, and I want to say he did it for like the Orioles or a station in Baltimore or something like that, because the Red Wings were Baltimore's farm team, because Cal Ripken was on that team. And yeah, it was like,
there were some good names.
Just a bizarre story. And like they were calling back to the producer back in Rochester, saying, hey, call Wally, the producer, back at the home and let him know if you're listening, because they had no idea if anybody was actually listening. But people were coming home from Rochester. You got the diehards that just, they just can't leave. But people were coming home from work, working the late shift and coming home from the bar, and they turn it on and they just can't turn it off. And a surprising number of people were actually listening in Rochester. But in Pawtucket, nobody was listening.
They wasn't on the radio. That was the kind of team the Paw Sox were back then. It's funny because now they're known as the pipeline to get to the major leagues for announcers. You've got at least 6 announcers in the major leagues that started in Pawtucket.
Wow.
You got Jeff Levering in Milwaukee, Cohen in San Francisco, Don Orsillo in San Diego. Dan Horde, who's Cincinnati Bengals. Jeez, who else? I can't think of everybody right now. Yeah, there's a bunch of them. Yeah, the whole organization was known as the model at that point, because this was the beginning of it for them. They became the model franchise for all of minor league baseball. Everybody tried to copy what the Paw Sox were doing, but it was really because of Mondor, Tamboro, and Schweckheimer. They really set the tone. Going back to the 33 inning game for a second. Now think about this. Some of the guys in that game, they went like 0 for 13, 1 for 14. That game ends in June, and all of a sudden your batting average dips 40 points.
Yeah, no doubt. Let me see. Who was it? There was a guy.
The Tampa Bay broadcaster came through Pawtucket as well, Fleming. So yeah.
The one guy, Graham, he went 1 for 14. Larrabee went 0 for 11.
Wasn't he the guy who drove in the tying run with a sac fly? And he was like, "Hey, you want 0 for 11?" I said, "Yeah, but I tied the game up."
Not for Pawtucket, because Wade Boggs tied the game. Oh no,
that was in the 21st.
He might have done it in the 9th.
Yeah, Larrabee did it in the 9th. So yeah, the Paw Sox are trucking along, doing well. But then in the late 90s, International League says, "Hey, guys, your stadium's a shithole. Oops, sorry. Your stadium is garbage. It needs to be upgraded, or you got to move the team." So guess where they were going to go back in 99, 2000? They were going to Worcester.
I was going to say Kansas City. Everybody thinks to go to Kansas City.
They're going to Worcester. But Ben Mondor steps in. This is my team, and redoes the stadium on his dime. The state owns the stadium, but he paid for it.
Huh.
That's why Mondor is so beloved here. They turned it from a 5,000 seat pile of garbage into for the time, very modern.
To a 10,000 seat pile of garbage. No, I'm kidding.
No, it was, at the time it was really, really nice. They put in the entry tower. They put in new sections. They didn't make a 360 wraparound, but almost. They put in a nice berm in the outfield.
I'm kidding.
And it became a model for the time. Now, compare it to the ballparks that were built in 2010 and on, it doesn't compare. But at the time, it was a fantastic place to catch a game. I remember that I went to the first game after they rebuilt it, of course. That shouldn't be a surprise. And my buddy Ben and I decided,
Shocking.
all right, let's check out this place. Let's find the best place. So we found the patio in left field, right next to the foul pole, parked ourselves there. And now at the time, we knew every bartender at McCoy Stadium. And that's how I got hired. I knew all the bartenders. So, we pay for a beer, we get a free one. Pay for a beer, get a free one. But, it's the first game at the new ballpark. So all the local news stations are there. And so they see us in this fantastic spot, and everybody keeps, hey, you guys got the best spot. You mind if we interview you? Yeah, no problem. Ben's wife was at home, and she said, I could tell what order you guys did those interviews in because you guys were just drunker and drunker, and one of them was just, incomprehensible. So, but yeah, the new place was great, and the Paw Sox were rolling. So, and then they started having success on the field. This was the heyday of the Boston team, and Pawtucket rode right along their coattails. For a while, ESPN used to compare the Paw Sox attendance to the Montreal Expos. And more often than not, the Paw Sox outdrew the Expos.
Oh, yeah. Louisville, Indianapolis, they all did.
Yeah.
Sacramento, probably.
No comment.
You know what I find? I find two things interesting about Ben Mondor, other than that he was Canadian. When he bought the Paw Sox, he was already retired, right? Like he was just, he had no kids.
Yeah.
He just had a ton of money and
I think they kind of had to talk him into it. I don't think he was too keen on the idea.
Yeah, definitely. And then the second one is that, for a guy that had little to do really with the Boston Red Sox, he was inducted into the Boston Red Sox Hall of Fame.
Yep. A couple of good Ben stories.
Well, that was the question I was going to ask is what was the turnover rate from the Paw Sox to the Red Sox?
For players or for staff?
Either.
Players, I mean, virtually every player who played in Boston through the 80s, 90s, and zeros and tens came through Pawtucket.
So that's why. The answer is because that was just important.
Hundreds, yeah.
That's why he's in the Red Sox Hall of Fame.
That's
That's just adding to it, Dave.
Game,
I wasn't arguing with you.
That 33-inning game, there were 4 guys who ended up playing in the 86 World Series.
Wow.
Well, yeah, another 2 Hall of Famers were in that game.
Yep.
Excuse me.
How dare you?
Yep. All
right, a good Ben Mondor story. I told you before about how one of Ben's philosophies, let's keep it affordable, right? So I worked in concessions. So one year we came up with this idea to do this great barbecue plate. Okay, we were going to put on brisket and beans and coleslaw and everything. We were going to sell it for $10. And Mondor came in the first day. We're going to sell it. The director of concessions is here. He's ear to ear smiling. He's proud. This is what we're going to do. We're presenting it like this. It looks fantastic. Tastes great. We all tried it. It was good. It was good. Pawtucket was never known for having fantastic concessions, by the way. They were known for having inexpensive concessions. Mondor takes a look at it. And, most of my dealings with Ben were not safe for work. So,
ooh, sexy.
He looks at it. No, not me. A GD ticket to this place only costs $6. Who's gonna pay $10 for food? And I saw the director of concessions. You could just see his heart break when that came out, and that item was off the menu.
It's a premium item.
It's really good food, though.
Yeah. No, we never had any of those. The food wars that you see in other places, and we talk glowingly about concessions at other ballparks. McCoy, basic. You would never, and I can't remember any item ever costing more than a ticket. I think Ben's philosophy stuck even long after he was gone. But yeah, when he was inducted into the Red Sox Hall of Fame, this was the kind of guy he was. Ben would take all of his full-time staff, throw parties for them, during the season and in the off season. At the end of every season, I used to love the last game of the season because I was a manager. I was middle management at the Paw Sox. So they would throw a huge party for all the players, all the full-time staff, and all us mid-level people. Open bar, steaks, grilled steaks. They would cook them for us. This feast. And every final game of the year, I would get so wasted and eat so much food and just be hanging out with the Red Sox and stuff. It was always a highlight.
Imagine that, an owner of a sports team giving a damn about anybody that's working for him.
And also, the first year I started dating Pam, she used to come to a lot of the games and hang out while I was doing my thing. The last game I said, all right, my new girlfriend's here. Can I bring her? And they're like, yeah, no problem. I had to carry Pam home that night. That was oh yeah, but we would sit after games and they would put a movie up on the video board in center field. You'd lay in the outfield with a couple beers in your hand and watch the movie and drink and hang out. It was always good. We got to play baseball on field, football on field. It was a personal story. I took the job at the Paw Sox because I had just gotten divorced. I had to pay child support. Child support was taking a huge chunk out of my paycheck. They're like, all right, I need a second job now. And I happen to know a couple of the bartenders, so they said, come on over to McCoy. We'll get you in. My job interview was, Dave told me you'd do anything. Yeah. So, all right, you're hired. I didn't think I was going to be running the grill, but that's what I did. I ran a grill. I had never done something like that before, but it was a blast. It was a lot of work, but it was fun. But a few months later, I'm sorry, I'm gonna ramble.
Oh, sorry, I thought that was your story.
No, a few months later, I ended up getting custody of my kids. So I went up, to the management and said, hey, I took this job to pay child support. Now I have the kids. I can't be here and have them at home. They looked at me and said, Mike Tambor said, this is a ballpark. Bring the kids. So my kids, aged 7 and 10 at the time, 7 and 9, had to run to McCoy Stadium.
It's just, it blows me away to hear stories like that and see where we've come, where people are so stuck up about things. And
I mean, you name a Red Sox player that came up during the zeros, they met them. Rachel used to hang out with the families because, the families have their kids. So
just wow.
She would sit up there with them. They ate ballpark food every night. I mean, that's probably why the diets are both so crappy now.
Oh, I was going to say, well.
Hot dogs, hamburgers, chicken fingers every night. Yeah, that's pretty much all I eat now.
But Dan, to get to what you were talking about, think about this for a second. So Bud Selig, bought the Brewers, right? They were Seattle Pilots, bought them, moved them. Do you know what Bud Selig did before he was in baseball?
Auto. He was a car salesman.
He owned a Ford dealership. Now, can you imagine a guy owning a car dealership or a bunch of car dealerships owning a major league franchise in anything now? Like,
it'd be very difficult.
The prices have just gone. I mean, not just the prices in the ballpark, but the prices for the team, right? Like billions of dollars. When the Teachers Federation owned the Leafs and the Raptors and the Air Canada Center, one of the things that they were worried about was, okay, we need to divest ourselves of this investment. Who's going to buy it? Who's got the money to buy it? And who ended up buying it? Like the two biggest communication companies who hate each other in Canada, right? Like the money has gone up in the ballpark, but like the money value for the franchises has just gone.
What did the Mets just get sold for?
It was out of J-Lo and A-Rod
Cohen
price point. Like that's how much that was.
Well, you were talking earlier about Ben Mondor being in the Red Sox Hall of Fame. Another example of it.
2.4 billion.
2.4 billion? Billion.
Yes. Billion.
Wow. There are countries you could probably buy for cheaper than that.
Jiminy Christmas. That's hard to even say that. Billion.
Yeah. Yeah, when the Red Sox inducted Mondor into the Hall of Fame, they had Ben Mondor Day to celebrate all the players that are called up and everything. And he rented a couple of buses, packed all the full-time staff in there, and we all had great seats, man. And we were the batter's eye. They gave us all green T-shirts, and we were the batter's eye out in the bleachers. It was an afternoon game, and
Let me guess, you got really drunk.
drinks were on the Paw Sox. And 95 degrees and free beer was not a good combination for young Paul. But
I got a
stories like that
question
all
for
the
you.
time. Yeah.
So you told us why you took the job in the first place, and you said you worked there about 12 years?
Worked there 12 seasons. Yeah.
Okay, so how many years did you work for the Paw Sox after you didn't need to really work for them anymore?
Jeez, good 6 or so.
Yeah, I mean, there's
More.
there's
Well,
a
let's see,
there's
I
a
started.
testament to the organization right there, right? If you're
Well,
if
you
you're
know
doing
what?
that
I
job,
would even say more than that. I would say I started there in 2000. Started dating Pam in 2005. I was really set before then, so maybe 8.
wow.
And
Now,
let me tell you some things.
Did
When,
you work at Gillette just as long?
No, I worked at Gillette for 7 years. I stopped Gillette and kept McCoy, even though I made more money at Gillette.
That tells you a lot.
But you know what? Let me tell you another thing about the Paw Sox. There was a time when I got laid off. When I was a single father, got laid off from my regular job. Paw Sox said, "Come on in. We'll find stuff for you to do." And I worked all off season for them.
Wow.
I never had a job, never have had a job that treated me the way the Paw Sox treated me. And it was funny, to this day, when I bump into Mike Tamboro, he still says, "When are you coming back?" Every time. And I always tell him, "You guys can't afford me now."
Dude, you're leaving. What are you talking about coming back?
And you know what? And I'll probably talk about this at the end of the show, but I went to the dining on the Diamond that they had. They had a little thing where, they served dinner on the field. There's not many people who are still there. I could probably count them on 2 hands, the number of people who are still there who were there when I worked there. And the first 3 people I ran into were people I knew. And even though I had a mask on and a hat on, and you probably could see, just my eyeballs, every single one of them yelled, "Paul, hey, how you doing?" It was a family. And a lot of companies say they're a family. This was.
Wow.
Did you try to have your wedding at McCoy?
Oh, Pam was not having any of it. No, Pam was not a fan of McCoy the way I was.
Okay.
And
That's
McCoy,
it. Divorce. It's over.
No, not at all. And she was right. McCoy did not have. They had a tent. Their group event center was a tent.
What the hell else do you need?
I'm not getting married under a tent, she said.
What the hell else you need? You need a tent.
There was a ballpark just as close to us that had an event center, an indoor event center, the Brockton Rocks.
That costs money. You got a tent.
No, it didn't. It didn't.
How long have you been engaged, Dan?
10 years.
No.
No.
Wife decides we're.
No. The argument's not going to work here. Argument's not going to work here. She's the one that wants minimum, and I'm okay with it.
Nice.
Uh-huh.
There you go. We'll do the wedding podcast.
Yeah. All she said was we're renting a suite at a hockey game. I don't care. That's it. We're done.
Yep. Yeah, we got the event center was attached to the ballpark where we got married. The mascot was part of the wedding. The manager was part of the wedding. We both wrote first pitches. It was a first-class day. Unfortunately, the ballpark in Brockton is now falling apart. It's infested with raccoons. It's a mess. But back then,
Name them to the trash pandas.
Yeah, no kidding.
Back
then it was a pretty nice place. So I guess before this ends up being a 5-hour podcast, we should probably fast forward to 2010 when Ben Mondor passed away, and then it was really a weird succession of events that ended up happening because Ben Mondor passed away. Then a group, when his widow Madeline decided to sell the team, she sold it to a group of Rhode Island businessmen, probably the 10 richest guys in Rhode Island. the head of CVS, the head of all these different Rhode Island companies. And Ben Skeffington, I don't know if his name was Ben, I think it was. He was the head guy, he was the president. One day he's out jogging, has a heart attack, and he dies. So the guy who was the face of the new ownership group dies like halfway into the next season. And they had stated right from the beginning that their number one priority was finding a new place for the Paw Sox to play in Rhode Island, because these were all Rhode Island guys. They were local guys. They were going very slowly with it. They weren't in a rush. But McCoy Stadium was falling apart. Needed to be replaced. If you have been to different ballparks like you both have, McCoy, while it's great and nostalgic and everything, doesn't measure up to the new places in a lot of ways. So they start looking. When Skeffington passes away, the team transfers. Larry Lucchino leaves the Boston Red Sox, comes over and takes over the Paw Sox. And so you know what happens. Lucchino has built new stadiums in San Diego and in Baltimore, and he did a lot with Fenway. So he's all about new and shiny and expensive. So a bidding war is going to start. Cities from all over New England jumped in. But and their preferred spot actually was a really nice spot in Providence. Now, I don't know, you guys probably wouldn't know what I'm talking about, but it was kind of like the spot where the Charlotte ballpark is. It was right on the edge of the downtown, so right beyond the left field fence would have been all the skyline of Providence. It was right on the banks of the Providence River. So you had the river on one side, you had the skyline here, ballpark would have sat right here. Would have been a beautiful spot. One problem. It was where the highway used to go through. Then they rerouted the highway, so it was all open land. But two problems. Actually a bunch of problems. The agreement when they tore down the highway was that nothing could be developed there. It was going to be parkland. Okay, it couldn't be developed.
Mm-hmm.
Like a green stretch through the city. B, Brown University owned half of it. So half of it was state, half of it was Brown University. And 3, there was a giant sewer pipe under the land. So they would have had to reroute all the sewer pipes and everything.
Oh, poop.
So, yeah. Oh, crap, yeah. So that project didn't happen. Once Providence was out, it was all bids come. Pawtucket, they looked at a bunch of things. The study said that to refurbish McCoy Stadium to bring it up to code would have cost them another $85 million. So you might as well build a new one. Might as well build a new one at that point.
Jesus. Woo.
So they identified a spot, which I don't know. It was a good spot, but I don't think it was big enough, personally. But Rhode Island politics got in the way. So, and Rhode Island was kind of gun shy to give all these millionaires a bunch of money after what happened with 38 Studios, which is Curt Schilling's video game company. I don't know if you guys know the story behind Curt Schilling.
That's a whole other podcast.
Yeah, the state of Rhode Island gave Curt Schilling millions and millions of dollars, and he just defaulted on the whole loan. So they were not willing to go through something like that again.
Thanks, Curt.
Yeah, you can if you're passing around pieces of blame pie as to why the Paw Sox are gone, Curt Schilling absolutely gets a slice. But most of the blame, at least in my book, goes to Thomas Mattiello, who was the Speaker of the House. He would not bring any deals forward to the House to be voted on. The state and the team actually worked out a pretty good deal that the Paw Sox were going to put up most of the risk. I think it was like a $90 million deal. Paw Sox were putting up $65 million, and the state like 35 something. And the numbers, I may have them off a little bit. But then Worcester came in. Worcester said, "Here you go. $130 million. We'll build you a new ballpark, new stadium, hotels around it, restaurants around it, shopping mall all around it, your own Patriot place." And they took the deal with Worcester. And if I was running the team, I got to say, I would have done the same thing.
It just seems really cruel to me after all the things you said about ownership and everything and fitting the bill before and all of this stuff that it seems really, and this is just me sitting on my social media throne, really crappy of the city and the Speaker of the House and everybody else would be like, well, no.
Well, Dan, public opinion was, no, we don't want this.
Okay.
So, I would give the taxpayers of Rhode Island a slice of the blame pie as well, because this was really not, most of the risk was going to be taken by the team.
Rhode Island's barely a state. How dare you? Rhode Island, not you, Paul.
Hey, I live in Massachusetts.
You have this much. Whatever.
Yeah, so that's a quick Reader's Digest version of how the team ended up in Worcester.
Wow.
What is the future of of McCoy? I've heard everything from soccer to independent baseball, or maybe both.
Well, I think COVID has really gummed up the works, because they were originally supposed to announce a plan last November. I'm talking 2019. There were 6. They opened up for bids. Like, if you've got an idea, what do you want to do for McCoy Stadium? Submit your bid. We'll consider them all. They got 6 bids. 2 were baseball teams. 1 was rumored to be the Atlantic League. 1 was rumored to be the New York Penn League. Now, obviously, there will not be a New York Penn League next year, so that one's going to be out. 2 of them were soccer stadiums. They're going to refit McCoy Stadium for soccer. There's a lot of land there, so it could be soccer. And the original, before they redid McCoy Stadium, behind the outfield fence was a soccer field. I don't know if you guys knew that.
No.
There's still a football field to the side of it now, but there was a soccer field beyond center field. That got taken down as a parking lot now. So yeah, 2 were soccer fields. The funny thing is, the state would not give the Paw Sox money to redo McCoy or to build a new stadium. They gave 30 or 35 million to build a soccer stadium down in this old, Superfund site or whatever it is.
But isn't that kind of like the city of Cleveland wouldn't give Art Modell any money to build a stadium, and then he bails, and then suddenly there's money to build the stadium?
Yep, absolutely. And the other 2 proposals were like art, turn it into like an arts district or something. So I don't know what they were leaning towards, but COVID and minor league baseball's reshuffling has put everything on hold. So there's been no announcement, so we don't know.
You can't answer what's the future of McCoy without first answering what's the future of minor league baseball, what's the future of independent baseball, what's the future of minor league soccer. Like, everything is so up in the air. I mean, the only thing we really know is that they'll be playing sports in Texas. They don't care.
Texas and Florida. Yeah, so what's going to happen to McCoy? I don't know. But the funny thing is, an ironic thing is, losing the Paw Sox probably saved the stadium.
Really?
Because if the Paw Sox stayed in Pawtucket, they were going to build a new stadium, so they wouldn't have no use for McCoy. They would have knocked it down. So now that they don't have a team, they'll probably keep McCoy in some form to use, whether it's for high school. I mean, you don't have use for a 10,000-seat stadium anymore. So you could downsize it. You could do different things to it. I don't know, maybe we'll see something like we've seen in other cities. But there's no comparable ballpark in Providence, so McCoy is it for Rhode Island right now.
Does Providence College have a baseball team?
No, they cut their baseball team a few years back.
Brown
does. They play in a 500-seat place with nice metal bleachers and stuff. Bryant's probably got the nicest ballpark around. That's in Smithfield, which is about 20 minutes away. For a lot of Paw Sox fans, honestly, the switch to Worcester is not going to be a headache. So if you live north and west of Pawtucket, it's instead of driving 20 minutes this way, you're going to drive 20 minutes that way. The people it hurt are the people in southern Rhode Island and the people out my way in southeastern Massachusetts. Because for me, it was about a half an hour drive to get to McCoy, and now Worcester's another 45 minutes past it. So I've gone from having a team 30 to 40 minutes away to now having a team an hour to an hour and a half away. And, the Woo Sox are putting up all kinds of signs that are showing the construction is coming along nicely, and it looks like it's going to be a nice ballpark. But man, the neighborhood it's in, if they don't build up around it, man, it's in a horrible
That's the plan.
Yeah, and it's got probably the most dangerous intersection in the history of intersections, about a half mile away from it, Davis Square. If you ever want to look up something fun, listeners, go like to Google Maps or whatever and look up Davis Square in Worcester. You have at least 8 streets coming in at random angles to this square. There's always accidents there. It never takes you less than 20 minutes to get through it. It's amazing. So, yeah, that's the story of McCoy.
That's quite the story.
I feel like I just talked for an hour and a half.
You did.
I don't know how that guy did it for 8 hours.
Well, I think, I just think a place like McCoy, we have these older ballparks, and when you have to upgrade them to a certain level and it's not feasible, and then the municipality that you're in doesn't want to do it, then this is what happens. You relocate. Now, you're still going to be within, like you said, some fans are not going to be that much further away, but for a person like yourself, will you go to WooSock games, or you're like, nope, screw you guys?
I'll go a couple a year. Nothing. I won't be a regular.
Yeah, doesn't that just?
I can't
Paul go to anything, but
going to a weekday game is out of the question for me now. There's no way I can make it there. So,
what do you?
Looks like a lot of Cape League games for me. A lot of Newport Gulls.
Yeah, goals.
Does that team cease being your team then?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
Have you seen the mascot? Have any of you guys seen the mascot for the Woo Sox?
Oh, the happy
No, but
face.
let's look it up and show everybody.
Smiley Ball, Dan, is his name.
Yeah.
Smiley Ball, that's my balls every day.
Here's a happy face.
Oh, good for you. Well, the story behind Smiley Ball is the guy who invented the smiley face was from Worcester.
Yeah.
Okay.
I gotta look this up. Is he actually have they produced this mascot?
Yes, they have.
Oh, for Christ's sake. Yeah, I see it.
And it's worse than you could imagine in person.
It's not that bad.
It's horrible.
It's a smiley face with legs. What do you want? Hold on, let's look at this. Let's look at this together, everybody. We're all gonna take a look at this on the stream. Do this right.
The happy face with Red Sox.
Put on a happy face.
Hey, that's Dan. Is he the mascot for the Woo Sox?
See, look, see.
Oh, it's hideous.
It's me. There you go.
It's hideous.
There you go, everybody. There's everybody. Let's take a look at the mascot for the Woo
That's
Sox.
the Worcester Town Hall right behind them.
That's wonderful. That's not bad.
Oh yeah.
No, that's awful.
Why?
It's like
You gotta love the hooker boots that the mascot has.
No, it's fine. I like it.
I mean, yeah, it's not awful on the level of the Amarillo socks. That's the classic one I always bring up.
That's great that this didn't work.
No, I don't know. I think that's pretty horrible. And that's on all their merchandise too. The smiley face.
Yeah,
Could be worse.
we'll see.
Could be that weird looking banana thing.
That's what I was talking about. No, not the Savannah Bananas.
Sure, I don't know. I just work here. Nobody tells me anything. People tell me what to do, and I just do it until I get tired of it.
So do we have any other questions for me about McCoy Stadium?
I gotta say that when I went once,
Hold on, wait. Sorry, I missed again. A great song, by the way. Matt here says it's Gritty's testicle.
Ew. Wouldn't Gritty's testicle be orange?
You never know. He could be off colored. Yeah, man. If he shaves a little bit, it could be yellow instead of orange.
Anyway,
It sounds like he has a little elephantitis issue going on though.
Cool. It's just one ball.
I can say that back on track now. When
you
we went to
balls
McCoy,
anymore, Dave?
no.
Okay.
When we went to McCoy, it was, I mean, definitely not over the top. Like it doesn't compare to like Durham Bulls Athletic Park or Charlotte or any of those ones. But I mean, we had fun. Jackson got to call out the 50-50 numbers. That was fun.
That was because of your host.
Yeah, he was a good host. I think what was maybe unfortunate about McCoy is how amazing it was underneath where nobody gets to go. Like to see all the stuff there in the what was that, like the tunnel, the players tunnel.
Oh yeah, that's right.
It was amazing.
That was the hallway that goes to the luxury boxes, which were on ground level. I mean, if you could catch a luxury box at McCoy, man, that was not many better places to catch a game. But yeah, all of Ben Mondor's treasures from 40 years of owning a team were hidden down underneath. Good stuff.
Yeah, just unfortunate that it was there.
Mark, any closing thoughts about McCoy?
Yeah, I would just say that you're always sad to see such a one of the famous minor league ballparks come and go, but that's kind of what we're seeing lately. I mean, we're going to have ballparks in AAA that don't date back to the 90s as being the oldest. I'm trying to think what the oldest is off the top of my head.
Coca-Cola Field in Buffalo.
Is Buffalo going to be the oldest?
Yeah, Coca-Cola Field. Yeah, Principal Park in Iowa. Those are Cheney Stadium in Tacoma, I think, is the oldest, but that was heavily renovated. So there was another old-time ballpark. But yeah, pretty soon all these ballparks are going to have all the bells and whistles that all the new ones have, and you're not going to be able to sit in one of those classic ballparks. I mean, I was at Victory Field in Indianapolis playing golf a few weeks ago, and they just renovated their ballpark on top. They added a suite level bar and some open air suites up there. So, minor league ballpark is always evolving and changing. So a place like Pawtucket, McCoy, you want to see last, but I mean, just based on the size, can it be anything but a AAA ballpark? Atlantic League would be great, but unless you have ties with the Red Sox nation,
that's what would have to happen. It would, it would have to be like Red Sox alumni all over the field and in the management group and everything would have to be Red Sox themed for it to work.
And this is why minor league baseball is changing, right? Like it's become, we talked about the arms race of stadiums in the major leagues. Well, clearly it's run through AAA. It keeps going down, right? AA, single
Mark
A.
mentioned like Beloit needing a new stadium or they were gone. Yeah.
And all of those guys on the chopping blocks, it's about facilities, right? There's a reason why Erie was on the chopping block as like the lone AA park that was going to get cut. It's no mystery.
Different times.
Yeah, if you build a smaller, if that was still a 5,000 seater, there'd probably be a little more life for it as a New York Penn if that was the case. But, it's just, 10,000 seat stadiums. Like, what do you do with a vacant stadium? I mean, a ballpark.
They would have to do like what they did in Richmond when the Flying Squirrels came in and tarp off the top levels or something.
And they want a new ballpark there as well, but they still attract quite a bit of attendance figures. So why would you want a new ballpark? That's an odd stadium too, but I guess that's a episode for the future.
Absolutely. All right, so I guess before we end up going 2 or 3 hours, like I said, we should probably call it there. All right, quick question.
Always come back to it.
Yeah. In the International League, where would you put McCoy Stadium in your personal ranking?
Camden, New Jersey. Oh, where? Okay. I thought you meant
top,
physically.
middle tier, bottom, way at the bottom, way at the top.
It's in the International League. It's closer to the bottom for me. I'm not a fan of Coolray in Gwinnett. Not a fan of Syracuse. But it would be right around that level. But to me, the International League is ridiculously competitive.
Yeah.
You know, the top end is really heavy.
No doubt. How about you, Mark?
I'm thinking about places too. You know, it's no Lehigh Valley, Durham, or Columbus or Louisville, but it probably would be towards the bottom, unfortunately. You know, maybe high bottom. Yeah, definitely not. I don't like Norfolk. I wasn't a big fan of that. I thought that stadium aged. Not a fan of Syracuse either.
Norfolk doesn't like
Coolray,
Norfolk.
Coolray I haven't been to, but I can tell that's probably not going to be one of my favorites.
It's nice, but has no soul.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, but Durham, I mean, what a great ballpark. Louisville is getting some renovations. That would probably be in the middle too, based on a few things. Indianapolis is awesome. Buffalo. Yeah, it wouldn't be last, but you know, out of what are there 14 teams in that league?
14, yeah.
Maybe it's 10, maybe it's 12, 11, something like that.
Okay. I'm going to shock you guys, but that's pretty much where I would put McCoy as well. And the ones I would put it over are pretty much the ones you guys have said. Norfolk, Syracuse, Gwinnett, and the one that I may differ from you guys, Buffalo. I do not like the Buffalo ballpark.
Neither does Toronto.
I would put McCoy down there. And from what I've seen of the Worcester ballpark, my initial reaction is it's going to be like Lehigh Valley. It's going to be a very nice facility, but there's going to be nothing around it, at least initially.
Literally the valley around it. Nothing else there.
Well, no, the ballpark, there is nothing. You can't walk from the ballpark to anything.
That's what I was about to say. There's nothing around it. Like you can get to the arena.
Oh no, I'm not talking about the PPL Center.
No, I know that. I take this ride with me because everybody has to get to the stadium. There's the arena, and then all the city around it. You can walk for blocks and find a restaurant or a store or something. To get to the stadium, you have to drive right through town to the very edge. There's nothing there. It's a highway. You could, if you walk, I mean, you can walk, but it's not convenient.
Amen. And that's just my impression of what I've seen about Polar Park. So take that for what it's worth. 2021, maybe one of us or many of us will get to Polar Park and we can compare them.
Not me.
I hope we get to some ballpark.
Me too, man. Me too. So segueing into our trips, this is usually the part of the show where we talk about where we've been over the last couple of weeks. Mark, any visits, any trips for you?
I mean, I went to Victory Field. They had a golf course for the last maybe month. So there was 9 different holes, and you were able to take shots from the outfield and then go to the upper deck, check out their new lounge, and take shots off of there. And it was really nice because you got this beautiful view of the outfield and the skyline, and you just take a shot. So that was kind of was that a ballpark? Was I watching a baseball game? No. Was I playing a sport? Yes. Bumped into a friend and her new boyfriend, so it was a fun outing. The weather wasn't perfect, but it wasn't bad. Free parking, concession stand was open. The gift shop was open too. Almost purchased a new cap. So yeah, it was a fun little time. Just a nice reminder that you can go to the ballpark, even if it's not to watch a game. So yeah, that was my little adventure.
Nice. Dave, I know you don't have any adventures to talk about. I also went to a ballpark. I went to McCoy Stadium.
Oh,
after being rained out twice to do Dining on the Diamond, we got to be there for the last seating of Dining on the Diamond. They had tables set out all along the outfield. You got to go in, sit at your table. They had catered dinner brought into you, so we ate dinner, and they had a montage of old Paw Sox pictures, heavy on Ben Mondor and Mike Tamburo and Lou Schweckheimer, as it should have been. Pictures of all the guys who have gone through, Roger Clemens and all the big stars who've gone past through Pawtucket over the years. Field of Dreams music. So, yeah, it was amazing. I was looking forward to it. And like I said, we tried to do it twice. We tried to do it on our anniversary in August, and we had all the kids coming, and we got rained out. We tried to do it again a couple weeks ago. We got rained out. So they actually reached out to us and gave us a spot on the last day So my two sons couldn't make it, but my two daughters could, and my granddaughter was there. So it was nice to be able to say goodbye. But that feeling when I stepped onto that field, when I crossed onto the warning track, I knew it might be tough for me, but man, when I stepped on that field and it hit me that, wow, this is the last time I'm ever going to step on this field. And it hit me and I started struggling. I was really having a hard time. I lagged way behind everybody. I was just kind of looking around, taking it all in. And I think Pam actually saw that I was struggling, grabbed the baby, put the baby in my arms, started taking pictures, and I was better. But it was funny. They had the team store. That's my new Facebook and Twitter picture. Took my hat, put it on the baby's head. She was kind of looking at me. You can't see her head. All you can see is a big hat. But they had the store open if you wanted to grab any last-second souvenirs. Luckily, no Worcester souvenirs there, so that was in good taste.
Oh, that's good. They weren't smacking you in the face with that.
Exactly. I was fully expecting to see wall-to-wall Worcester Red Sox stuff, but they weren't.
That's what they did in New Jersey.
Ticket
it was like
sales there and everything.
When the Nets were moving, they were like, "Oh, come see us in Brooklyn." We were born in New Jersey, but now we, are Brooklyn strong or something. And I'm like, screw you guys. Not that I'm a Nets fan to begin with, but I would be annoyed.
Well, don't worry. They hate the New Jersey Day so much that they're bringing back that jersey. So,
so when we left, I looked over at my daughter who grew up at McCoy Stadium, and she was fighting tears as we were leaving.
Oh wow!
And it was funny. One of the guys, because I was the last one out, and one of the full-time Paw Sox places, just like old days, isn't it, Paul? You're the last one out. Because I used to run the big stand, so most nights I was the last part-timer out. So it was nice to be able to say goodbye to it.
Goodbye. Yeah.
It was a really nice night. So that was what I did over the last 2 weeks. I do have a trip coming up. We'll talk about it in an upcoming show. So, Dan, where can our listeners follow you?
Dan Law 83 on all social media platforms.
Mark, how about you? Where can you be followed?
Ballpark Hunter, all social media platforms, including YouTube. Check out my latest video. I'm in Binghamton, New York, and Cooperstown, checking out some Speedies, which is a delicious little regional sandwich. Check out the video. Give me a like. Tell me what you think.
Yes, do check out my YouTube as well.
Speedies are not delicious, Mark.
They're not delicious?
I don't know. I've tried them twice. I haven't liked them either time.
Have you been to Lupo's?
In fact, once it was Speedy, then the wrong direction.
Yeah. Well, see, the problem is everybody makes them, and some of them make them pretty crappy. But if you go to Lupo's, that's like the real McCoy there.
I do like it. The Rumble Ponies, they shoot Speedies out of a T-shirt cannon.
No, that's kind of cool. Yeah. No, Lupo's on the char pit. That's how you have to have them. They have that little crust on there. Oh.
All right.
Very good.
I will not close my mind to the Speedy.
Okay, well, it's no pork roll, but hey.
What is?
Nothing.
Dave, where can our listeners follow you if they're so inclined?
Follow me at Profan9 on Twitter. Hopefully you're enjoying, it seems to be the Dave Cotney week on Stadium Journey, as it's like review after review after review. Make sure you enjoy Pawtucket Day, because my review of Bottom of the 33rd is coming up the same day as the podcast drops on the site, the same day as Paul's review of Dinner at McCoy. So we got a nice little McCoy Day happening there.
I think I'm going to throw the McCoy Stadium review on tomorrow as well, and my goodbye to McCoy Stadium as well. We'll make it nice. We'll make it wall to wall. We'll do
it's wall to wall McCoy.
Do a thing.
And my video.
Yeah. There you go.
Yeah.
Paul's gonna have to call in sick just to run the website for a day.
Hey, you could give us some hits.
My arm, please.
But yeah, I just finished a really good one. The Booster. It was written by Ed Martin's son, Carl. Ed Martin was the booster who was involved with the Fab Five, and oh my gosh, did Carl Martin throw Chris Webber under the bus? That was so cool. And Dan, you'll like this one. I am right now into Doc, the biography of Roy Halladay. which is awesome. The only thing that I was slightly disappointed in is it's written by a Philly guy when I thought it was written by a Toronto guy, but that's okay. So
Well,
you can follow that at ProFan9.
Nobody's perfect.
I can always tell when a book is really good because
A Philly guy
Dave will start giving me messages. Oh my God! See this? This guy gets like for the one you're reading, you just did about the booster. Oh my God! You should see what he said about Weber.
Oh yeah, and I got that. What's it called? The Patriots one on the audiobook, From Darkness to Dynasty. That dude hates Fenway.
Written by Jerry Thornton.
Pretty awesome.
Yeah, that's an entertaining book. Jerry Thornton is a very funny guy. Yeah, it's an entertaining book. It doesn't talk about the dynastic days of the Patriots. It talks about when they were just a bumbling, laughing stock of incompetence.
Look out, it's coming back.
Hey, we had a 20-year run, man.
Yeah, that's what I said. I said it's okay. They'll be fine.
Yeah, I had to text my son after the last game. He said, "You know how old you were the last time the Patriots were 2-4?" He says, "No, I can't remember it." I said, "You're right."
But don't worry, Patriots fans. Tampa Bay signed Antonio Brown, so it's only downhill from here.
Yeah.
I do not sense a Tampa Bay Super Bowl. Not with him.
No, they'll self-destruct at some point. They'll implode. Maybe might be a better term. All right, so you can follow my stadium journeys on social media at PuckmanRI. And once again, don't forget to check out our website, stadiumjourney.com. Follow us on Twitter. Follow us on Instagram. Follow us on YouTube. And follow us everywhere at Stadium Journey. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. Yeah, I just said that.
Within reason,
Stadium
follow
Journey.
us everywhere.
Follow me home after work. No,
Don't do that. I'll beat you with a baseball bat.
My McCoy Stadium issue baseball bat. Find the Stadium Journey podcast at vocnation.com or search VOC Nation Radio Network on whatever podcast app you use. And once again, if you're not already there, if you stuck with us the whole time, thank you. We simulcast live every other Tuesday night at 8 Eastern at twitch.tv/danlaw83. We will return again in 2 weeks. That is today's October 27th.
Yes.
What's 2 weeks from now? November 12th?
Sure.
November something. We'll be joined by our old friend Tim Capper. We will be talking about the venues of the great city of Montreal. So brush up on your French.
November 10th.
November 10th?
Gotcha.
I was never good at calendars.
I'm not good at math, so you got two.
So for Dan Colachico, Mark Viquez, and Dave Cotney, I'm Paul Baker. Until next time, put me in, coach. I'm ready to play.